Every time. I'm going to let you officially introduce this incredible guest, good friend of mine, and at the Backyard Improv, all around incredible person. Let me build him up. Okay, this guy is phenomenal. Great personality, incredible musician. He's laughing over there. I don't know if it's at me or whatever it is, but would you tell everybody who we're sitting
Yes, we have the amazing Jinx, Jinx Jones, JJ,
yeah. JJ.
in the house. And he's looking very dapper. His hair
How you doing, Jinx
is looking
Jones?
cool. He's got a cool kind of Hawaiian shirt on. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, welcome. Yeah, we're really happy to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's good to
thanks.
be here.
Yeah.
Thanks for
It's not
coming.
really that hot in here. It's
Yeah.
actually got the fan going.
Well, your coolness is offsetting the hotness.
Well, he was in Oakland. He wasn't burning up. Yeah.
No, right. Yeah, give him
because I
20
was in
minutes.
Oakland all day, and I'm not hot either, really. Honestly, yeah.
No, we're usually about 15 or 20 degrees cooler.
Absolutely.
Where I live. I live up in the hills, and we're about 15 degrees cooler than you are out here in Walnut Creek.
Yeah. Hey, how's the family, brother?
They are doing wonderful, and we just our little one just graduated third grade.
Wow, congrats to him.
Yeah, family's doing well.
That's good. So third grade. That is.
Wow.
Wait, so 7?
8.
Oh, 8. Yeah, man. Wow.
You remember him? He came over here when he was 4.
I got some great pictures.
He walked
of him.
in. You were giving me a painting that day, which I treasure to this
Do you
day.
still have it?
I sure do.
It's not under the bed?
Oh, no, it's up on the wall. But you were giving me a painting, which is very kind of you to do, and I brought the family over, and he just walked in like he owned the place.
That's right.
He sat down like, this is my place, here I am.
Yeah.
It was really cool that he did
That was.
Yeah.
Is he normally like that, or he just had to?
Not always,
okay.
no. I think
He felt comfortable.
he's well, Peter's seen him a few times. I think he has people he just kind of intuitively thinks these people are okay.
Yeah.
I think he felt
Feels
that way
safe,
about Peter straight away. So that's why he felt comfortable coming in and taking over, sitting down. Yep, this is my pad.
Yeah.
Here I am.
What's his name?
Hudson.
Hudson. Very cool. And is he learning a instrument?
No, everyone asks him that,
I
and
know.
no, he's not. He's into things a lot of kids are into, like video gaming, and he is very artistic. He loves to draw, so he's kind of like Peter in that regard. Peter is a great artist as well. But one thing Hudson does that I think is amazing is he thinks through drawing. He'll get an idea, and he'll work it out on paper. Like he wants to play a game or something, for example, and he'll work it out on paper first. Like, how will this work? I'm gonna play with that.
Like the steps or the diagrams, or
diagram it all out and
Wow,
everything.
that's
So I think
cool.
that's
Well,
pretty
I relate
amazing.
to that.
That is
I relate
amazing.
to that. It makes sense. He's highly visual.
Highly visual, and he's very intellectual.
Yeah, analytical, and he wants to see the steps. I love that.
But at such a young age.
Yeah, no, I used to do that.
Well,
when
but
I was a
I
kid.
think that bodes well for the future.
Yeah,
It does.
totally.
I think so too. I would agree.
Good
And
job.
I
Good
was a lot
parenting.
like that as a child. I was like drawing all the time. I was one of those kids that never wanted to go outside and play. I always wanted to stay in my room and draw pictures and things like that. So, he's similar to me in that regard.
Yeah.
So with that said, it was a bit of a drive. I appreciate you coming here. We've known each other a few years now since the Impulse Room, and I'll tell you.
What year did I start playing the Impulse Room?
Well, yeah, I do. When we opened it, which was 2017. So I don't remember the exact date of the first one that you came in with your trio.
Right.
I posted a video or a couple videos the other day of your trio performing in there, and you've been in there multiple times, you know.
Oh yeah, that was a fantastic club. I love that club.
Oh man, thank you. And I just feel privileged, brother, because not only are you a great person, but when you came in with your band, you killed it every time. Even on days that would naturally be slow, a Wednesday or something like that, you'd still bring a bunch of people in and forget about it on a Friday or Saturday or something. And so you always came in and your band would vary every now and then. You had Ken Owen on drums, I think almost all the time, or it seems that way.
Frequently, yeah. There's a few people, Kurt Reebok, Randy O'Dell. One time I played your club. This was one of my favorite memories of the Impulse Room, if you don't mind me sharing it.
Please, brother.
So I booked a date there. We used to book dates well in advance. So I'm going to say 4, 5, 6 months in advance. And booked this date. And I have this dear friend in Denver, where my hometown is Denver, Colorado. A friend named Arlen Felsen. He's one of the most amazing drummers. And I mean, if I was to compare him to jazz drummer, I'd compare him to someone like Billy Cobham or Lenny White or something like that. So I had booked this date there, and I'd started playing with this bassist named Angeline Saras, who a dear friend of mine, and amazing spirit in music that she is. She's just one of my favorite colleagues in music. And I was thinking how much it would be great to get Arlen and Angeline together. So I called Arlen up and said, "Hey, I know this is crazy, but would you fly out here and play this gig?" He said, "I don't know." And I said, "But this club is so cool." And he said, "And you've got to meet Angeline." So he did. You used to have a house drum kit, a nice drum kit in the club. And so all he had to do was come in. I think he brought us a couple cymbals or something like that. So anyway, and we'd never played together before. We didn't rehearse or anything. So we came in and did that gig there. And that was one of my favorite experiences there. I really treasure that one. That was a really good one night. But then you start doing the improv thing. And I remember the very first one that I did. And you had phoned me up or contacted, I think you instant messaged me or something. Said, "Hey, would you do this jazz improv thing?" And I thought about that. And a lot of, I'll be candid here.
No, that's fine.
A lot of where you go to a jazz jam night or something, they're usually kind of taken over by people that go to the same jazz school or something, and they've been working on these, I'm going to say, rather obscure and quite challenging pieces. And if you're just a stranger coming in off the street and saying, "I'm going to get up and play with these guys," it can be pretty intimidating because they're not playing, they're playing very unusual songs out of the real book that no one plays very often, and they've got things worked out that you haven't worked out with them and things like that. So I was thinking, well, I don't know if I really want to do that. And then you said, "Well, here's how it goes. You come in, I'm not going to tell you who you're playing with. In fact, these are folks you've never met before. And then there's no charts, there's no known songs, it's completely improvised." And you know, and I've known you for a while at this point, and I trusted you, of course. Yeah, I thought you had great taste. And well, okay, I'll give it a shot. And then I thought, what have I done? What have I done? You know, I agreed to do this. I don't, you know, and I remember sitting in a chair. You had these very well-stuffed leather chairs off to the side of the stage. I'm sitting in this chair, and I'm watching these people. None of these people I'd known at all. And we did it, and it was so cool. And I remember the very first thing you did is you came up. You always have these great stories, and you had this one that one night. It was we had not even played a note yet, and I'm up there and I'm looking around. I don't know any of these guys. I don't even know what kind of style of jazz they play or anything. And you said, "Okay, welcome." It was one of the very first improvs you did. Maybe the first or second one. And he said, "Okay, here's a story. There's this young boy sitting on the side of a river, and he's playing his guitar, and he wants to play jazz, but his family's played R&B, and they expect him to carry on the family tradition of playing R&B, but he wants to play jazz. And this next song is that Jinx, count it up." And I'm, oh, okay. But that was what started the whole improv thing for me, and that was one of my best experiences. I had a lot of good memories from the improv.
That's like a curveball for sure, you know.
It was, you know, but see, every time we did, you remember when you were there, what was it, like 3 weeks ago? We did the one,
that was a great
number
show.
52. That was a really good one.
That was a great show.
But you know, I was telling people, listen, you got to give me the story.
Yeah.
I can't just come up with something. I need that story.
Yeah, of course
he
you
always
do.
comes up with something. I know he's not prepared. You
No.
can tell he's just making it
it's
up
off
right
the
on the
cuff,
spot.
right.
And he's not prepared any of this. You had one the other day that was so good. It was like, okay, this is some low down blues. This is like, you know, you're at home, your wife isn't speaking to you, even the dog won't come up to you anymore. And in fact, you're living out in an RV out in the driveway. But the finance company just came out and they're towing it away. And,
I remember that.
And then it was, okay, Jinx, start. Same thing. Okay, count it up, Jinx. You know, but that, you know, those stories make those improv sessions so fun.
Yeah.
You know what? You were so genuine that hearing that and having you know, recall this and hearing it in your words, that's a treat. But I would have them on a Wednesday or some slow day, and you don't know if you're doing the right thing or not because it's Wednesday. The Warriors are playing. Something's going on, right? And so you get a handful of people in there.
You mean in the club?
Inside the club, right? But that's inherent to a Tuesday or a Wednesday or some kind of off night, right? Where it's going to typically be slow. Once in a while you slow it. So you don't really know if you're doing the right thing or not. But I know I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the shit out of it. I knew that I was on the right track, and I knew to continue on regardless of who was on board, because one day he came to me and said that same story, and he was genuine then and he's genuine now, and I knew he was for real, and I said, oh, there is somebody that likes it. There's a musician who's enjoying the shit. Okay, I'm going forward with it. So we started moving them to Fridays and Saturdays. And it would pack the place.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So Jinx was your sort of like baptism. It was
I
like,
liked it, man. I got confirmation from my brother right here,
definitely.
right, and said,
That's
what I'm
cool.
doing is okay.
Yeah, and it's great confirmation because obviously based on his musical career, you know, he's
He is quite good.
innovative, creative, has his own unique sound, you know. So it's coming from the real thing, you know, someone who's thinking outside the box and following his own creative heart, you know, in a way that no one else does. And I know that, you know, it's not like, you know, people haven't played rockabilly or that you haven't had influences. I'm sure you have. But you definitely have your own sound. I was really struck by that right off the bat. It's the first time I've heard you play. And since then, of course, I perused the internet and saw your website and listened to some of your music and all that good stuff. And wow. I mean, I was wowed by you live. Why? I mean, that's my favorite way to hear music. Who obviously, right? But yeah, you do something really unique with the guitar for listeners who do not know. Yeah, is that right? Yeah, listeners who don't know, Jinx Jones is a guitarist because there are people who tune in who may not go to the improv and may need to look up what kind of musician you are. Yeah, he's a guitarist. And how would you describe your sound or your music? Yeah, just, I mean, any way you want.
God, that's a tough question. It's really hard to put it into a category, and I think that, you know, you hearing me for the first time play in this setting that we had at the improv is a great reflection, because it is, I don't really see a lot of these boundaries between different styles of music. It's all music to me.
Yeah.
And I'm a product of a lot of experience of playing a lot of diverse styles of music and putting them all together at the same time. I really fell in love with the sound of the electric guitar at a very early age.
That
I
is so
never played
obvious.
acoustic guitar very much. At one point, I never played acoustic guitar, and a few years ago, I thought maybe I'll play acoustic guitar, and I really enjoy it. And there's a lot of people that do that very well. But the thing that grabbed me from a very early age was the sound of the electric guitar, and I'm really drawn to kind of a natural sound of the electric guitar. You know, I don't use a lot of effects, and I feel, hey, guitars sound good anyway. I don't need to put effects on it. So that is what I really like, and I'm crazy about surf music.
Mm-hmm.
I love jazz. I'm a big jazz fan, and I grew up playing R&B music. I kind of came into rockabilly. I'd already been a professional musician for many years and didn't even know what rockabilly was.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Started playing rockabilly when I used to live in Hollywood for a few years, and I started playing down there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I mean, it's really fun to play, and it's a style of music where you can bring all these different diverse elements in, and they work. You can play, because when rockabilly was originally recorded, those musicians playing that, they'd been listening to Benny Goodman, and
Exactly.
they'd been
They were
listening
jazz
to
musicians.
they were brought up in the swing and jazz
Exactly.
era, and that was what they probably wanted to do. But hey, I got hired to play this session with Johnny Burnett or someone like that, and so a lot of those musicians, you can hear that influence. And the thing about rockabilly is fun is you can put a lot of jazz phrasing in there. It works just fine. Like I said, I grew up playing R&B and soul music, so there's always a little bit of James Brown in what I do. You
can hear it,
And so I'm just kind of a product of that mixture of all those experiences.
Yeah. I was going to ask a question about that. Oh, so you said that you just fell in love with the electric part of the guitar. Well, the electric guitar. What was that fascination like? Because what I heard and was like, what you can do with the electric in the guitar is amazing. Like, I thought you were using a lot of different sound effects, and you're getting all of that from
really getting it from a guitar and an amplifier.
And that's it. And I'm thinking, how is he getting this?
Yeah, because you don't use it.
Incredible.
You don't use the pedal board a lot.
I don't use it at all. I don't know how. Well, I'm a simple person, so that's a lot of thinking to do having a pedal board. That's a lot. I don't like amps that have a lot of knobs on them either. That's to me there's a lot of decisions to be made there. I don't know, but I think it's I like the sound of the electric. A funny story, when I was a little kid, and I'd heard the very first time I ever heard a live band, it was a surf music band.
Okay.
And they were guys. They were this band from the Colorado area called the Astronauts, and they played surf music. They all had blonde Fender Jaguar guitars. They had blonde Fender amps. And they had blonde haircuts. And I was at an amusement park called Elitch Gardens in Denver, and I saw these guys playing live, and I thought, wow, that is
so cool.
That is so cool. But the sound of the electric guitar really fascinated me. I remember my mom telling me, said, well, those guys that play the electric guitar, they don't really have to learn how to play it because they have knobs that just do all that for you. And I thought, well, really? And then, a few years later, I got with it. That's not right. No.
Sounds just like a mom, though,
You
right?
actually have to learn how to play it, and it doesn't matter if it's electric or not. But the electric guitar does. The things that I really like on the guitar that make give you some capabilities you might not have with an acoustic guitar is the volume knob. So like I almost always have my finger on the volume knob because you can do the same thing an organ player can do with the volume pedal. You can swell and make things louder and softer and things like that.
You're working the heck out of that.
And then the tone knob, you can kind of create like the effect of a wah-wah pedal or just, do back in the 1950s, a lot of the steel players like Speedy West would do things like that, where they go wow, wow, kind of, they change the tone from the bassiest to the most treble tone rapidly and create effects with that. And I like to use that as well. But you get down to it, I think whatever you're playing, if it's an acoustic guitar or electric guitar, it's 90% coming from your fingers, your heart, your ear, your mind, your imagination. And that's, an example of that. Funny thing, I find this amusing. I hope I'm not offending any guitar players and certainly not any guitar manufacturers out there. But you hear all this, here's the same pickup that, I don't know, George Benson used, or here's the same pickup that Eric Clapton used, or something like that. And the reality is, if I went and looked and picked up George Benson's guitar right now, I would not sound like George Benson. I would sound like me. That's George Benson making it sound like that, And so I think that a lot of it really it comes from the player, and some of it is involving the equipment.
Yeah, I think, and I didn't think it was different. I just thought that you had a sound that you perfected, or that you were so skilled at, because I couldn't see any of the gadgets, you know what I mean? And I'm like, this guy is, I knew it was you, but I was like, how are you doing this? I couldn't, because I thought it was that diverse, and that, like, the sound was just so unique, and you got so much out of it. Yeah.
Well,
and it was so distinctive.
Well, put it this way. I'm familiar, he's got, as we're all saying here, a wide range.
Yes.
Within a limited, you take this relatively limited thing, at least the perception of other musicians might think of it. Other guitars will say, "Oh wow, you don't have all these."
Yeah,
it's
he
just
has
the way
signatures all over it.
He strums the
Yeah,
chords,
absolutely.
and I'm like, that's Jinx Jones.
Yeah.
That's Jinx Jones.
Yeah, and I noticed that there was a lot of the word twang in some of your albums. So what is a twang exactly?
Good question.
Can you speak to twang, please?
Well, yeah. I've always wanted to know what twang is all about.
That's a hard question.
You know what? Wait a second. Well, hold on. Before you answer that real quick, I think that's my favorite question you've ever asked.
Really?
That's a hard question. That's a good question.
Tell me about twang.
Again, in the very early years, I mean, back in, I'm going to say the 1950s and 1960s, the electric guitar was a radical instrument.
I see.
It was you know, they were different shape. They were unconventionally shaped. You'll know there's the shapes of the electric guitars are unconventional. They came in, all of a sudden they came in really wild colors and things like that too. And you know, it's like, I don't know if I played trumpet or saxophone, they don't make that in candy apple red or pink or sunburst. So they, but twang was, the first time I was familiar with the word was associated with the guitarist Duane Eddy. Okay. And Duane Eddy had he had an album, he had several albums. I think one was you know, $10 million worth of twang and Mr. Twang and stuff like that. And he had this sound where they were really emphasizing the characteristics of the electric guitar as opposed to an acoustic guitar. So why, you know, it was brighter, it had more attack, and I don't know. That's a sound that I really like. Again, we're talking about the very natural sound of the electric guitar and the unprocessed or untreated sound of the electric guitar.
In comparison to sort of an acoustic guitar, what the differences are physically. Yeah.
And then you know, for anyone who's listening, the technical part of it is like, you know, if you, wherever you are picking the string on the guitar.
Yeah.
Now, if you pick way up like where the neck is, you're going to get kind of a mellower, gentle tone. And if you pick at the opposite, right where the strings are leaving the bridge, that's where you get kind of a twang or something. You get a sharper, brighter, a lot more attack.
Okay, so twang is in a certain space.
Yeah, so twang could be interpreted in many ways, so I'm not really answering your question. What's a one-sentence definition of it? I don't have that, but I can tell you.
I'm going to look it up in the Urban Music Directory or something like that. No, you did a great job.
Yeah, but that painting I did for you, Twang-tastic.
You
I did a painting for him,
Twang-tastic,
and it had like a little beach scene where it was like was it a Woody or
like
something?
Like a Woody, yeah.
Sitting there
like a 50 or 51 Ford
Woody, I think. That's funny. I don't know if did I have a surfboard on there?
I think you had a surfboard on it. Yeah, I think a surfboard on it.
I said, I think I'll like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
I love that.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
If you had to, and this is, we ask this question in some form or fashion pretty much every time to every musician, because it's very interesting. When was that moment, can you remember with any kind of clarity, the first time where you're like, I want to be a musician? Where it went in your head, like what was your, maybe let me rephrase that, what was your first exposure to playing any kind of instrument? How old were you? What did you first pick up? And at what point did you like, man, I want to play, I want to be a musician?
Oh, great question, Peter. Well, I told you about, I was at this amusement park, Elitch Gardens. My dad their company was having their summer picnic. He worked for United Airlines, and they had a summer picnic. And I'm roaming around the amusement park, and I saw this band play, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. I thought that was really cool. I really wanted to play electric guitar.
Just from the get-go.
Well, of course. I mean, look. I mean, it's just
beautiful.
Weird shape.
Yeah.
You know, and these
would've
three
had
guys with the
exposure to
blonde
something
haircuts
else.
and the blonde guitars and blonde amps. I mean, how cool is that? And I thought, God, I could see myself doing that, right?
Yeah.
So I was really keen on getting an electric guitar. However, my parents were maybe a little conservative, and at that time, you know, an electric guitar was kind of associated with rock and roll, juvenile delinquency,
a deviant,
right? And it's like, and my mom thought, well, you don't really need to have any musical talent to play that. You just, you know, whatever. And so they, you know, no, you're not going to get an electric guitar. So right around the same time, I'm going to say I was in 5th grade. Summer I was in 5th grade. I met the kid that lived a couple doors down from me on my street in Denver, Colorado. We're up in the storage area, and we found this cardboard box, and it had these really unusual records that were a different shape, and I realized they were 78 RPM records. I'd never seen one before. And we went over to the stereo that he had in his parents' house there. We figured out, oh yeah, there's a 78 speed on it. We put them on, and they were boogie woogie piano records. And so we had a piano in our house. My mom but we lived in Cheyenne, Wyoming before we moved to Denver. And then when we lived in Cheyenne, my mom bought this piano from a bar for $25. It was a little out of tune. But anyway, I went to this piano, and I've never had any music lessons. So but I went to it, and I said, well, that sounds like a chord. And this is what they're playing with that boogie woogie piano record. It's going dunga 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 dunga. So I was able to, and I got to the point where I could do that. And so the next year I was going into 5th grade. And we had this music teacher, I still remember his name, Mr. Santo Pietro. Mr. Santo Pietro was an Arapahoe County sheriff when he wasn't he was a real hard ass kind of guy, right? You know, flat, he was like a Marine drill sergeant, flat top, you know, hated rock and roll, hated kids, hated teenagers, right? But he was a 5th grade music teacher. So I would come in the classroom and I'd get on the piano and I'd be doing my ba-ding-a-ding-a-ding, and all the kids in the room would come and stand around the piano, right? And he'd get really pissed off. And I thought, well, this is great because I can kind of give him the hard time. Anyway, I started, kind of interested in piano. And then after 6th grade, the summer after 6th grade, I was going into 7th grade the next year. And this kid that I knew on my block, he said, hey, I've got an organ, one of these combo organs, that you could set up a portable organ. And he said, I'm not doing anything with it. You want to borrow it? I said, yeah. So I got this thing. He showed me how to set it up and plug it in. He needed an amplifier, how to plug it in and everything like that. I made sure I knew how to play it. I got on my bike straight away, and I rode a couple blocks over to where these kids I knew were practicing in a band in this garage. And I went up to them and I said, hey, I got an organ. They didn't have an organ. I got an organ. And they said, oh yeah? We're playing the back to school dance at Merrill Junior High School. We're playing the back to school dance on, September 20th or whatever the date was. And the guy had a list of songs. He said, hey, do you know these songs? And I looked at it, I didn't know any of these songs. I didn't even really know how to play. But I looked at the list and go, yeah, and I went home and I thought, well, okay, now I got to learn these songs. So I went and learned these songs, and sure enough, we're playing the back to school dance. These kids have been practicing all summer, right? I went to maybe one rehearsal with them, and I just barely. But they got to this dance, and they were so nervous, they completely blew it. I mean, endings would be train wrecks, songs would just kind of crumble, and I'm up there like, whoa, whoa, this isn't good. But anyway, so I'm this brand new 7th grader in the school, and in the back of the room, there's this older kid who's a 9th grader, and he comes up to me and says, hey, man, how'd you like to play with the 6-packs? That was like the really cool. That was a really cool 9th grader band, and they were good. I mean,
from this gig, this bad gig that you had,
dreadfully disastrous gig. Like
you were the only one standing,
and these guys are so nervous, and it's just like the energy of these guys was not good. But anyway, this 9th grader comes up, hey man, you want to play in a 9th grade band? we're playing the Six Packs. I thought, oh man,
Already
Six
being
Pack.
ready.
Doug,
The
that's your
Six
kind
Packs.
of
Oh
band.
my God, the
Well,
Six
this is
Pack.
good beer.
So anyway, like I was always like one of these kids that like sat in the back of the classroom. I was really shy, and I never talked to too many people. I was one of these kids that like you could be in the class with me and not even know I was there. And so, a couple weeks after I joined the Six Packs, they were on this TV show in Disco Tape. It's called Disco Tape, and it was on every day at like 3:30 when the kids would get out of school all over Denver. You know, they'd come home and watch Disco Tape, and they'd have local bands on there. So 2 weeks after the dreadful back to school dance, I'm on Disco Tape with the Six Pack, and I'm telling you what, that was the life-changing moment for me. That was, you know, the next day I had 2 girlfriends that were 8th grade. Not one, 2. Like, 2 girlfriends that were 8th grade. And I was, you
That's
know,
your boy.
I was
right
like,
there.
yeah, okay, that was kind of what set me off. And then, you know, but I'd always wanted to play guitar. You know, I wanted to play guitar, and
Oh, God, that's great.
so another funny thing that happened around that time. So anyway, I'm in 7th grade, and anyway, I really decided I wanted to play guitar. And I think what happened was when I heard Jimi Hendrix, and I heard Jimi Hendrix, and I thought, well, you can't do that with an organ.
No.
You can't. And I remember, I'm 12 years old or something, and I'm listening to this, and I think, first thing I thought is, he's free.
Yeah.
I thought, he is free.
Yeah, that's
He can do what he wants to do. And Peter, you'll relate to this because you're an artist, and I had been always, you know, involved in art as a kid. And I realized there's this point where you get to where the technical ability of painting or drawing isn't in your way anymore. That you can think of something and you can transfer it to the canvas or transfer it to the paper that you're working on. And the same's true of music. And I felt, wow, he's reached that level. You know, he can just think of something and it comes out. And not just a collection of musical notes, but a whole artistic statement of sound and music. And it really affected me. And at that point, organ didn't hold a lot.
I can see why.
Wow, that is an incredible story. Both parts of it, and I love the Jimi Hendrix thing, and how you like really explained what that experience was like, and the part where you saw that he was free, and how that translated to just this incredible expression, and that inspires you. I love it.
You know, he gives me, on occasion, he gives me credit for being a storyteller. Dude, you're a good storyteller yourself.
He's amazing.
He's a great storyteller. I like it. I'm sitting here like, what next, Jinx?
Yeah.
What the hell happened next?
Yeah, and so that storytelling most likely is in your music, right? And you're telling a story. You're really conveying.
Yeah, I think the thing that is amazing about music, and I think a lot of musicians I know, I think, are introverts, and I'm a, you know, if I did the Myers-Briggs test, I'm like way over on the introvert side, you know. And I've always been really shy, and I mean, obviously I'm, you know, telling stories and stuff like that, but there's a part of me that, you know, you learn how to, you know, be social with people, but you're an introvert, and you have to work on it. You have to develop it.
Totally.
And but I think music gives you the ability to say the things you can't say with words, and to express yourself in ways that, you know, our language is limited.
Exactly.
You know, but music is not.
No, it isn't. Yeah, and that's what you realized in the Jimi Hendrix moment, and you've since then. That's what was how long ago?
Well, I was 12.
Okay.
So, you know.
Yeah. So many years ago.
Many
years ago. And it has translated to this entire career, like, so talk a little bit about your career as a musician.
Oh gosh, well, I mean, I was on Disco Tape. What?
I love that
You've reached the pinnacle now.
That was the zenith.
I don't think I can forget your
Disco Tape.
Your story.
Well, there was a period of time where I kind of like playing organ. You know, I was playing in bands and some good bands, but I really wanted to play electric guitar, and so at some point I think I'd gotten some money for my birthday, and this is, I don't know if anyone's from Denver, you'll relate to this. When I was growing up in Denver, this is really different. Denver's very different now, but when I was growing up, Larimer Street was Skid Row. Okay. Now you go to Denver, Larimer Street is like elegant restaurants, like Larimer Square and stuff, but this was before all that happened. It was Skid Row, and it had these 2 blocks were just all pawn shops. And So I had gotten some money for a birthday or something like that, and I had my dad take me down to this place called G.I. Joe's Pawn Shop on Larimer and 17th and Denver. And it was like, they had guitars and stuff like that. So anyway, I went in and there was a Fender guitar in there, electric guitar, and I don't know how I did this because I was really young, and I talked the guy down to $60, which is all I had. No tax. I didn't even. All I had was $60. It was $120 or something. I talked him down to $60. Walked out with this guitar, and so that kind of started that. And I've been practicing. Finally, I felt okay. I'm good enough to play with a band. And I was in high school. I think I was 16 years old at this time. And a friend of mine in high school, his dad owned a bar on Colorado Boulevard, which is one of the main thoroughfares in Denver. And it was called the Eldorado Lounge. I still remember that. And he said, "Yeah, kids, we'll let you come in and play some music on an off night or something like that." So I went in there and I played, and I think it was me and a drummer, just the two of us. And we played. So anyway, a friend of his said, I think maybe 15 at that time. So now I was about 16, I think. And a friend of his said, "Hey, we need someone to play at this club in downtown Denver. And the gig is from 5 in the evening till 8 in the evening. So it's right when the people downtown in the offices get off work. And oh yeah, by the way, you're backing up burlesque dancers." And
nice
so,
gig.
I'm 16 years old, right? And I'm going, yeah, okay, that sounds good. And so,
the 3 minute.
and I remember going
in
this place. I've never really been. I've never been in bars or anything like that. And I go in and like the lights are. It kind of remind me of Impulse. Not nearly as elegant as Impulse, but they have colored lights, and it's. I had a job cutting lawns on 100-degree weather, so it's air conditioned in here. This is great. So and I'm just all excited as I can be. So then I started. Playing in nightclubs, and then I was playing with school friends and bands and stuff like that. We were doing kind of what everyone else was doing. We're playing cover music, playing kind of rock music, popular songs, and I worked in music stores also. I got jobs working in music stores. It was a wonderful experience because I met all these musicians from different styles, different genres, and people that lived in different parts of town and stuff like that. And at one point, a few years later, I got to the point where I really wanted to play R&B and soul music. And I really wanted to play it. And I was playing it with like some of the kids I'd gone to high school with. And, they were, we were pretty good musicians, but I knew there was something not authentic about the way they were approaching that. And so I met a group of musicians, African-American guys that were maybe a little older than me. And they needed a guitar player. So I went and auditioned for them. And the audition was weird. We went over to this guy named Carl Kelly Jr., and everyone called him Baby. He was the band leader, and his parents had this home, and his mom was the manager of the band. And they had a band called Distinctive Movement. And he said, "Well, yeah, we were looking for a guitar player. You come down and audition." So I went down to audition with him. And the audition was weird. It wasn't like, "Okay, let's see you do this. Let's see you do this." No, they were rehearsing. They were learning a Tower of Power song. And a challenging song called Ebony Jam. They're a very wonderful Tower of Power song. And they would just put the record on, play it a couple times. "Okay, everybody, let's do it." And so, I'm like in the rehearsal with them. I'm not even auditioning. I don't know if they even like me. I'm just doing the thing. So anyway, we spent the afternoon playing with them. And at the end of the rehearsal, Baby comes over to me and says, "Hey, you want to join our band?" And I go, "Yeah." And these guys were like 10 times better than any other musician I'd ever played with up until that point. And their vocals were just beautiful. Goodness. And the way they played, and they had that funk groove, and it was just so good. Wow. And I remember I was driving away from the house. I'd say, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, we'll come back tomorrow. We're going to re-rehearse tomorrow too." So I'm driving away and I go, "What have I done?" I can't play with these guys. They're too good. So I went home, and I remember I had a James Brown record with all the James Brown hit songs. I said, "Well, I know these guys don't play these songs, but I'll tell you what, I need to learn every one of these James because they all had really cool little signature guitar riffs in them. And I learned all that, and these guys were so kind and so wonderful and so gracious, and they, you know, I was not at their level, but I was going to get there.
Yeah.
And I was determined to get there, and I really worked on it really hard, and playing with them was a life-changing experience. They got a house band gig, and they went on to do some great things. I mean, we did 2 weeks with Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. We opened for Natalie Cole, the Dells, the Silvers, Johnny Taylor. So we were like in the R&B big time.
Yeah.
And
what a great
these guys are
experience.
still to this day. This guy just was out in Denver a few weeks ago playing out there, and Reggie Carter, the bass player, you know, he and I were roommates on the road, and you know, we were just like such dear friends to this day.
That's awesome.
But those guys really looked out for me too, and we had a house band gig at this place called Smitty's Playroom and Lounge, and this gig, you know, back then, you know, in that neighborhood, they would kind of look the other way if things were maybe not quite legal, and one of those was after hours. Now in Denver, you had to shut down your bar at 2 a.m. no matter what. That door had to be locked. You had to have everyone out drop drinks off the table. Not Smitty's Playroom.
Yeah.
They would, we would go in, the sun would be going down, we'd be going in, and we'd be coming out, and the sun's coming up.
Yeah.
And that was like, and people that played at Smitty's, we always talk about the University of Smitty's. Because you learn to play really well. And that's where I really learned to play rhythm guitar, which is, you know, because I'd be up there, you know, playing all night long.
Wow.
And it really did a lot for me. And I think that was a huge turning point as well. So that's a huge, really long answer to your simple
But
question.
that was
awesome.
so
That
good.
was awesome. Yeah.
It gave, it really gave us a whole idea of how that happened. And it really appears that you were just destined to be a musician. I mean, there weren't any you didn't, besides going, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to do this, you know, many times, you just kept going. Yeah, like you had that tenacity and the level of tenacity and dedication to learn it. So you had the ability to learn. You're smart, you know what I mean? And dedicated. And that, I mean, so many people doubt themselves, and that keeps them from moving forward, and it has not, and you just moved forward no matter what the situation was. I love it. But I see that you're playing everywhere, so I see a lot of places
I'm
for you
going
to
to
go
ask
here to see
him
you
now, and he's going to have to get back to me because
Okay.
I doubt that he's got a calendar on his phone.
Well,
Do you
I
have
saw
a
his
calendar on
calendar.
your phone?
Yeah.
Well, no, everybody's got a
Yes.
calendar, but you have your schedule. What do you do on August 3rd? If I'm remembering this correctly, we're going to a new place in Concord. The guy's house is, his name is Jim Warburton. It's a nice big backyard, brand new place.
I have no dot on the calendar on August 3rd.
I'm not going to tell you who you're playing with. I'm going to keep
Of course
it
you're not going to tell me who I'm playing with.
But
You
you're
can tell
gonna
me
like
where
it.
it is.
It's a stellar.
I know.
It's a stellar cast. You want to mark that down, bro?
Okay.
5 to 7 in Concord. You're here,
Yeah.
America. You're checking out how this
Okay,
works.
this is you're seeing it live here. Peter Ben, Jazz Improv.
Right.
See, it pops right up. So 5 to 7. Okay.
5 to 7 Concord, and I'll give you the address later. And I believe it is August 3rd.
See what I got you into? Yes.
And I think
learn to adapt.
introverts probably like, you know, going to a dinner party where you don't know anyone.
Yeah.
And you have to make small talk with people.
I
You know,
hate
some
small
people
talk.
like, you know, my wife
I have to learn how
is
to
the
do that.
opposite. Like when she's in a situation like that, she'll get a lot of energy from that. She's like, you know, revved up from that. And I can do it, but it's like it takes a lot. You know, it's kind of like if you're right-handed and you have to write your name with your left hand.
Totally. I
You
love
could
that
do
analogy.
it, but you have to think about it.
Yeah.
You have to put more
Strategic
care and
everything.
you have
yeah.
to be more careful about doing it. It's not natural
Exactly.
to do it, so you can do it. You learn to do it, but yeah, you need some time to recharge. So you ask, you know, some of the things I do. Playing music on stage is actually a very comfortable spot for me because I feel that, and I don't know if other musicians feel this way, but I feel I've got this kind of temple here
Yeah.
that,
I like that.
I've got a safe space. One of the things is the average person is terrified to get on stage.
Exactly.
So, you know, you've got a place here, this place might be packed with people, but no one's going to come on stage because they're scared to. And so I've got my little space here that's all to myself.
Yeah.
And this connects with the question you just asked a moment ago, Peter, about what drives you, what interests you. And for me, it's that in the moment, this is why I like the jazz improv. In the moment, where you're interacting with other musicians musically, and it would be different on any given night. It would never be the same way. And there's just things that happen that just are going to happen in that very special moment. They're not going to happen that way again. That's what really drives me, is those moments. And it's not, if I'm playing to 50,000 people and they're all screaming and going crazy, or if I'm playing to 4 people. Yeah. That's,
irrelevant to some degree.
It's not unimportant, but that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it really to have those musical adventures, and music is kind of a social thing too. And so relating to people with musical instruments, and another thing about I'm going to plug the Jazz Improv Theater again. Please do. So there was one. I'm going to use an example.
This I can accept.
There's one on his. He had the very first time he'd been doing this. It was maybe about the 3rd or 4th one. It just happened to be Peter's birthday. So Peter goes, I'm just going to have the most elaborate improv show there ever was. He had 3 drummers. He had 2 bass players. Both of them had electric 6-string basses. He had 2 keyboard players.
This is when you had the doubles.
He had
because I always said I want a double drummer here.
He had 4 horn players and me. And so, but I'll tell you something about that. With all those musicians, it never once got busy. It never once got loud. It never once, there was never a moment where anyone was getting in anyone else's way. And that's because these musicians are very mature in their musicianship, that they listen and they play what needs to be there, and they're not necessarily trying to play like they have something to prove. They play like they have something to say. And so that is that's one of the greatest examples I have. Those moments are really special.
Well, with that said, I just want to say thank you for trusting me. Because there is a level of trust that you put in me, that you're not going to be like a nervous wreck as to who am I. Well, I shouldn't speak for you. Maybe you've been a nervous wreck, but I wouldn't know it, right? You don't come in there ever like that. You never ask me who you're playing with. You just you trust me on a certain level, right? That I'm going to put you with somebody that's hopefully of equal type caliber, or that's good. So thanks for the trust that you.
Well, I have to say that I've been introduced to so many musicians that I had never met and might not have met had I not done that. So that's been a real treat. Like when we did the one about 3 weeks ago, number 52. Mike, I'd never met him.
Mike Mendoza.
Kid Funk, I never met him. I love Kid Funk.
He is really good.
You guys had something going on there for sure. Well, all of you did.
He takes
and
a lot
I
of
played
risks,
with Brian once before.
Right.
But I never have a question about, are these guys going to be good? I know they are. They wouldn't be asked to play the improv if they weren't good.
Yeah.
let's see. The album's under my own name.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Which would be Jinx Jones Trio?
Just Jinx Jones.
Okay.
Well, you know, I've got a couple of jazz records I did. I did one during the pandemic.
Yeah, tell us about that, because I
I'll-
think there was a story about that.
Yeah, there is a story about that. But anyway, to answer your question, I've got 7 or 8.
I said, I counted 7, but.
7 or 8.
Yeah. Well, I
albums
just
that I've
saying.
done,
Yeah.
and so I'll tell you the story of the pandemic album. So the pandemic is funny because when I saw your Focusrite device here that you use for your podcast, you go, oh, I got one of those. So the pandemic came along. Now I've been, you know, ever since I was like 15 years old, I've been working 4 or 5 nights a week playing music.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, you know, we have a shelter-in-place order, so we can't. Not only there's no nightclubs to play at, you can't leave your house, and anyway, so I was really thinking, well, you know, this may be a good opportunity for me to go and really kind of dig deep into developing my jazz voice more. And these are things that are, you know, you work on. You're never going to get to a point where you say, I've learned all there is to learn about this. You're always evolving and always developing as an artist in that. And so I I had musicians that lived in different places that had home studios.
Yeah.
So I did this album. The album is called Blue Gardenia. And you can hear it on Spotify. Shameless self-promotion here. Yes, you can hear it on Spotify, folks.
Yeah.
But anyway, I took some jazz songs, and these were all either standards, and some were 70s soul songs that I love, that I would just use a metronome and play the guitar parts at home with one microphone and an amplifier in the guitar. And then I would send it to my friend Arlen in Denver, who had a home studio. He also wasn't able to play any shows. He'd put his drum parts on there. And then we'd send it to Angeline here in the Bay Area, and she'd put her bass on, and we'd get either saxophone, Lincoln Adler was one who played sax on that, who's played many of the improv shows. And Tim Greenhouse, who's another person who lives in Colorado, plays piano. And piece together this record, and that would be probably an achievable thing to do if you're putting together a pop record. But putting together a jazz record, your goal is to sound like a bunch of people playing in the same room at the same time, spontaneously, which we couldn't do. There weren't any studios open. So anyway, so that was how that record was made. And like I said, I got to play some jazz songs that I'd not done before, and also to do a lot of 70s soul music that I really love and I didn't feel had been done in a jazz style. And so anyway, I'll fast forward. So another part of the story, this goes into your question about listening to my own music. So about 2 years later, the album had come out and everything, and it was my wedding anniversary. And my wife and I got married on a yacht on the bay. We got married in a hornblower yacht. So when our wedding anniversary comes around, we'll go on a dinner cruise on the bay.
Nice.
So we're on the dinner cruise at the hornblower, leaving out of Pier, whatever it is, 3 or something like that in San Francisco. And we're and they have a DJ who's playing music, and playing music as people are having their dinner. We're having their dinner, and one of the songs on my CD came on, which is Me and Mrs. Jones, a soul song by Billy Paul. And we'd done an instrumental version on the record. It's funny because I'm listening to it. It took me a minute before I realized it was mine. That's a nice
there you go. You were surprised.
Yeah, but it was just the moment was so amazing because here I'm having a wedding anniversary with my wife, and they're playing Me and Mrs. Jones.
The universe approves.
Yeah, so that was kind of a cool thing.
And your wife.
It was a really cool experience making that record. Very different. There was a very unique situation. I don't think that's happened in our lifetime before, and certainly hope it doesn't happen again. But it was making the best out of what we had to work with at that time.
Yeah.
Hey, you didn't ask him, and I'm looking. We're about an hour, 2 minutes. I think we got about maybe 8, 9 more minutes, something like that.
I'd say 10 more minutes.
You didn't. Okay, so
what
go ahead
didn't
and
I
round
ask?
up. How he met his wife.
I know that was my next.
Oh, that was your next question.
Yeah, that's why I said the universe approves.
I know.
Yeah, I played that beautiful synchronicity. It was a beautiful synchronicity. His song.
So do you want to ask him that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I was going to ask you what brought you to California from Denver, but then I said, well, let me ask him how he met his wife, and maybe that will be the answer.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I'm very glad I came. Well, if you grew up in, first I'll answer your first question. If you grew up in Colorado, you know, there were times where it would go 2 weeks and it wouldn't get above 20 below zero.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you
That's
grew up
not
in
good.
Colorado, your dream is to move to California. And I lived in Southern California before.
In
And,
Hollywood, you said, right?
and the San Francisco area, I'd really not been here. I moved out here, I didn't know anyone or anything, so it was an adventure. And so, anyway, how did I meet my wife? Well, two very close friends. Well, I have this one friend. Actually, I had not known him very long at that time. He had invited me. I've been out on tour in Finland, and I had just come back to the Bay Area, and he was in a situation where the guitar player in his band had dropped out of the band unexpectedly, and he needed someone to fill in a slot. So we were playing there was a nightclub in San Francisco called the Red Devil Lounge, and we were playing at that venue, and his girlfriend at the time had invited her friend from LA to come up and visit, and that turned out to be Marie. So I met her. There's a YouTube video of that night, of that show. So anyway, but it wasn't like an immediate thing. So I ran into her. You know, she decided to move up here to the Bay Area. She'd been living here a little while, and I would run into her now and then when my friends would come see me perform or something like that. And then one night I just decided, you know, next time I see her, I'm going to ask her if she'll go out to dinner with me. And we were playing at a place on Lombard Street. God, what was the name of that place? I can't remember now. It's not there now. We're playing on Lombard Street, and she and my two other friends had come in together. And we go on a set break, and I said, would you go to dinner with me? She said, okay. And so we went out to dinner, and then we went out for a while, but, you know, it wasn't like, you know, she was, you know, kind of checked me out for a while. It wasn't like, you know, instantaneous.
Then like you moved in together or anything.
You know, I don't know about you. You have to
I
prove
gotta check
yourself.
you out.
Right. So
Good
anyway,
for her.
but good for her. I agree with you.
Yeah,
And
makes it last longer that way.
And so that was how we got together.
Very cool.
And
So
how
she
many
checked
years
you
now?
out.
Oh gosh, well we went on our first date. See, I'm really good. I remember dates.
You are good. Your memory's
August
fantastic.
23rd, 2018.
Okay.
Also not that
Yeah.
long. No. That's great. Very cool. What else you want to ask?
Oh, wait a minute. I know.
I'm like
2008, not 18.
I'm trying to count like how old your child is, you know?
Yeah, I didn't want to get into all
No,
that.
I did.
You gave up 10 years.
Well,
I was like, I have questions. And I'm like, how much time do we have?
I thought to myself, I just leave that shit alone, let them move on to the next thing.
I was like,
It was
wait.
2008, not
Okay.
18, sorry.
What-
we got
the last
married
couple
in
minutes.
2011.
Excuse us, Maria.
With the- yeah.
Excuse him.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
We were just talking about how we got engaged.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know, for you guys out there listening,
Uh-huh.
you know what I'm talking about. Getting engaged is no
Stressful,
small matter,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just you got to plan where you're going to ask.
Yes.
You got to have your ring all picked out, and it better
Yeah.
be good. It better be a good ring, you know. And you got to have your
Oh,
you got to have the right location.
You're like,
You gotta have
right,
the
right,
location.
right.
I put some thought into it, so I had gone out and I was, you know, I don't know a lot about jewelry,
Yeah.
so, you know, I had to find out what kind of cut, what kind of diamond, so I learned a lot about it. So anyway, I'd gotten this engagement ring, and I planned to take a little vacation up to Lake Shasta.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, this will be perfect. And I go online and I look at this hotel, and I say, oh, it says right by the beach. I can see it right now. Sunset at the beach. I'll get down on one knee.
Oh,
I'll pull out the ring. You know, that'll be perfect, right? So we get there, and this place online, it looked fantastic. Well, you know how sometimes
I know how
things work.
Shasta is.
Right.
though.
So we get there, and this motel, I mean, the motel was nice, but then this quote-unquote beach that's there is this strip of mud under a highway
no beach
overpass.
on
So these like
Shasta.
semi-trucks are going, and I'm looking at this and nah, that ain't going to do it. So now
He's got the ring.
now
and
I'm
no
in a
beach.
bit of a pickle because, you know, I planned all this. Now I don't have that perfect spot. So I'm just saying, well, I gotta think of something quick. So I got the ring in my jacket, and it's in a case, so I got my arm like this, or trying to hide it. What's wrong with your arm? Oh, nothing. So we went on this ferry boat, and it's raining also. It's raining, it's cold. We took a ferry boat over and they had this little cave tour on the other side of the lake. So we went on the cave tour and said, well, maybe at the cave tour there'd be a perfect place. And there really was.
Under the stalactites.
Yeah, under the stalactite. But no, it really was like dark, and there was like, and the tour guides giving their guide, their.
I've been to those caves.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I know
so
exactly what they are.
we're coming back across Lake Shasta in this kind of like a riverboat kind of thing, or ferry boat thing, and there's not too many people, maybe 8 other people on the boat, and it's raining, and we're in the middle of the lake. I thought, this is going to be the spot. So I get down one, and I pull the ring out and everything. And the first thing she says, "Am I being punked?" and everyone on the boat starts cheering and everything.
So she didn't believe it.
She didn't believe it.
Oh, that's wow. So she was completely surprised.
I think I
am I being
was
punked?
successful in keeping it a surprise. That's
sure. Awesome. Yeah. Great story. Good job, by the way. I like the whole scene of the rain and the ferry.
It was actually kind of nice, but didn't go as planned.
Yeah.
And she didn't say
had to improvise.
Hey, brother, that's what I'm all about. That's what I'm all about.
Yeah, that's a good way to end this.
It's a good way to end this. Again.
Because we all have to improvise. That's what life is.
That's what we have to do. We have to make it. I'm trying to jostle directions of life right now. Where I'm headed, whether I'm moving, I'm hanging out, or whatever. But what I do know is a constant is creativity. Yeah. And so...
And it's love, too.
Love and creativity, and do the best that you can and make the most of impact if you can. So I know you've been through a lot of interviews over the course of your, how many now? 3 decades, 3.5, 4 decades of music producing.
Yeah, I read some of your reviews. They're really good.
Yeah, you've been through a lot of them. I don't know, because I haven't watched every one of them, but at this point in time where you're at right now, God willing, you're around another 50 years. What do you want to do with the remaining time that you have as it relates to music?
I want to get a little better every day.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Is that possible?
I tell you something.
It is. Well,
I love being a musician. You could live
you can tell it.
5 lifetimes and you'd still have new things to discover.
He's in touch with that eternal source.
Such a joy. I mean, I talked a lot about you asked a lot of questions about what initially got me interested.
Yeah.
That was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
The best thing I did for myself. And it still brings me every bit as much joy as the very first time I played an instrument. It's just as fun as it was in 6th grade.
And lastly, your parents, they're still around or they're not around anymore?
No.
Okay. I don't know when they passed, but what was their feeling? Okay, as you went away from the keys and the organ and stuff, and you went into the guitar, and then they're like, oh shit, he's gone. He's too far gone for us to even deal with. Did they ultimately embrace it?
Well, I can end with a really good story. I hope we have time.
Okay, we do. We got time for this.
So, my parents were not really too happy about the idea that I wanted to play music. They, they're like, well, yeah, that's adorable, but what are you really going to do with your life? And I got to the point where I felt I was, in different stages of being successful at different stages, and they just, I don't know, they were not that interested in it. And one of the times when I was playing with Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, my parents came out and saw it. And they go, yeah, I guess that's okay, but they weren't. I don't think they were that. They didn't like the idea of me being a musician, they thought, well, you're probably hanging out in some of these, places with, all kinds of bad influences and things like that. So this is really a funny story. My parents, I was adopted. My parents that I grew up with were much older than I was, and they came from Portland, Oregon. And so
that explains
the last time that they came to see me play, I was playing with a big band at the Top of the Mark, and they came to the Top of the Mark, and it's really funny because when they were kids in Oregon, they used to have radio broadcasts from the Top of the Mark with Glenn Miller or someone like that, Tommy Dorsey, and they came in and they said, "Son, you finally made the big time." So that was pretty cool that they said that. And I remember another thing that when I played with this group called In Vogue, and you know,
Oh, that group.
got you know, gold and platinum records and stuff for that, and I remember sending a copy to my dad, and he listens to it, and this was kind of funny. He said, "Yeah, it's pretty good, but you know, those girls singing's getting in the way of your guitar playing."
That's a great
All right,
compliment.
support your son.
Yeah, there
Right.
you go. They
Okay,
bought you
singers.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
Do you have anything left for Jinx?
Oh,
before we let him go?
I don't have anything in particular. You told such great stories, and thank you so much for giving us so much tonight. Honestly, I learned so much. I always learn from the artists that are sitting across from us, but you're such a great storyteller, and I love your music, and I look forward to hearing more of it live and otherwise. So,
Well,
and I love that you want to keep going as well.
Yeah, so circle your calendar because
will.
I don't remember what number that is. I want to say 57
Yeah.
or something.
August.
August 3rd. It
Third,
is. So we're going to have Jinx Jones.
Yeah, but he's got a great calendar of local events.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You can-
How can
How
people
about some
find you?
shameless self-promotion here?
Please.
You
Yeah,
can go to my
his
website, which
website.
is jinxjones.com.
There's
Okay.
no
Look up the
name,
schedule,
Jinx Jones,
and
Yeah.
and we have a lot of really exciting shows coming up in the summer. Summer's
What's
always
the
great.
next one?
Let's see, what do we got coming up? I'm playing tomorrow night at Tupelo in San Francisco in North Beach.
What time?
We call that the Rockabilly Dance Party from Hell. If you come to it, you'll know exactly why we're saying that.
Oh my God.
It is jam-packed and
Okay.
wild, and then we're doing a Father's Day show at the Port Costa, at the Warehouse Cafe in Port Costa. That's really going to be good, a Father's Day show.
Where's
on-
Port Costa?
Port Costa's out kind of by Hercules.
Oh, I know where it
Out
is.
there.
I know where it is. It's at
Sugar
it's right on the
Factory.
water
Yeah,
there.
it's right on the water.
I used to party there a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
good spot. We're doing
Okay.
that. I'm playing.
At the bar there?
Yeah, we're playing at the,
Yeah.
Warehouse Cafe.
Yeah, warehouse, yeah.
And I'm doing a jazz show. One of my favorite jazz spots when I'm not playing the Improv Theater,
Yeah.
of course, is Jupiter in Berkeley. We're playing there on the 15th.
Oh, I love Jupiter.
And,
Yeah.
We're doing that on the 15th.
Okay, see, he's very local.
So, yeah.
We
a lot of
should
And
check
very
him out.
coming up.
accessible.
Yeah.
And I know everybody that follows the Backyard Improv, we have a good sized following there.
Yeah.
I know a lot of them now, they try to see you whenever
Yeah.
they can. They follow you, whether it's online or in person. So,
Yeah.
you know, thank you to them. And thanks
I'm
for
bowing
everything you've
down.
done.
I mean,
Hey, man, thanks
honestly.
for what you bring, not just
Yeah.
to my scene, but thanks
to
for
the world, yeah.
Yeah, to the world.
Yeah,
I was going to
music
say the
world, yeah.
Bay Area, but
totally.
yes, to
Music
the world.
scene, the
Yes.
world, yeah, also. Yeah.
The world is a much
World's
better
at large.
place at Jinx Jones.
Of course it is. It would not be complete without it.
There would be something missing.
That's an intrinsic part of it.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Jinx.
Oh, thank you both. It's been a wonderful time. Just, the time has flown by. And,
Yeah.
like I was saying, being an interviewer,
Yeah.
it's like, this has been like effortless. It's just like having a fun conversation.
Very
you
cool.
know,
And
with
you've
a good
been
friend.
effortless.
Yeah.
You're a great storyteller, and thank you so much for sharing what you did. Yeah, I'm sure our listeners love it and will
Yeah.
learn as much as I did from it. Yeah.
Yeah, much love. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Jinx.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
both.
All right. Thanks.